Hi, this video will showcase the new logbook and employment feature added in version 1.2.3 of Flightplan Visualizer. Another video have been recorded showing all the other changes made in version 1.2.3. My personal uses of this program have been to find inspiration for which flight plans to fly, and using the leg search features you can specify criteria that lets you to choose which flights to fly. However, you have to manually choose all your settings. Here you can specify which aircraft to use, you can specify which countries to fly in, and so on. But it's a manual task. You'll have to do this every time you do a flight. So some time ago I had this idea to make it possible for you to be employed by one of the airlines. For example, here we have a Brussels Airlines. And if you were employed by them, you would have, they operate these aircrafts, they visit these airports. And here on the map you can see all the flights they fly. But again, it's optional for you to choose which flight you want to fly and so on. This new logbook feature visible here, it has been a long way in development. Actually, if you look here in the videos, here in version 1.17, I added this user aircraft, and that was actually because it was a thing I knew I needed for this feature to be implemented. So actually it's been slowly added in the background without you user could see it. Every time I released a new version, there was a lot of features you could use instantly, but many of the features was added as part of implementing this new feature. Let's look at how you use this new feature. By default it's disabled, and that's because I want to inform people that this is an alpha version or an early access version. So there could be some things. I have no known errors, but still you should understand it's an early access, and I urge you to do a backup of your logbook data. So to enable the feature, you simply go to the logbook menu item, and you have to accept that this is an early access version. And when you choose yes, the menu is now enabled. As of now, the program is not connected to your flight simulator. So none of your things you do in the flight simulator are automatically recorded by the software. So logging the flight is a manual task where you have to enter data. In the future, I would like it to be connected to the flight simulator and actually record your flight, so it can be used to judge how well you perform the flight. But whether or not I get the time to implement that feature, I cannot say. But at least it's what I would like to do if able. The first thing you need to do is to create a logbook. This feature is not so much a logbook. The core of this new feature is not a logbook, but the logbook is used to record your flights and your employments. So the first thing you need to do is to create a logbook, and you do this using this menu item, Manage Logbooks. And we choose Create. You have the option to both name your logbook and the pilot. I'm the only one using this computer, so I would just use my name. But for example, if you have multiple people sharing the same computer, you would probably use different pilot names. For example, I could choose to name my logbook MSFS and then enter my name here. But again, I'm the only one using this, and I only use a single name, so I just use my first name. And it will use the same name both for the logbook and the pilot. You are able to select between 3 genders. The default is unknown, or you can choose male or female. And the only uses of this gender is this avatar illustration over here. Here we have male, and here we have female, and we have this unknown. So whether you want to choose it or not is entirely up to you. The gender, if you choose male, you will be addressed as a Mr., and if you choose female, you will be addressed as a Mrs. or Miss. You will always begin with a rank of private pilot, because at this point we're not employed by an airline. And you can choose your date of birth. It will default to a date 40 years ago. But you can choose your own birthday, and the only uses of this is when you log a flight. It would log your dates when you perform the flight. You have to choose a country. There is a small bonus when you employ for a job if your country of origin is the country where the airline is based, but it's a small bonus, and that's the only uses for the country. Here you can enter your SimBrief ID and your SimBrief username, and the data is simply used when uploading data to SimBrief and retrieving data from SimBrief. Here you see they have already been filled, and that's because in settings I can put in my SimBrief user ID and username, and if they're filled from SimBrief, they will automatically be filled here as well using those data. Next we have the difficult setting, and they are actually affecting a lot of things. Let's look at the difficult settings. It defaults to the difficult setting of normal, and all of these values down here are based on that difficult settings. The normal difficult settings, you'll see no change to the illustration, but choosing one of the others, the avatar illustration will change. Choosing very easy, you'll see the pacifier. Choosing easy, you'll see the chicken. Choosing hard, you'll see the hammer and the axe illustrating you have to work harder. And choosing very hard, you'll see the skull and bones. If you choose very easy, you will begin with some initial experience points and type rating points. Experience points are used when you seek application at an airline. So choosing very easy, it will be more easy to be for your application to be accepted. In order to type rate to fly aircrafts, you need type rating to earn type rating points. And here with a normal setting, you will start with 0, but choosing very easy, you will start with a settings of 40 points. So from the get-go, you can type rate for larger aircraft than you can choosing any of the other settings. Personally, I hate programs like these that force you to fly a small aircraft for a long time before you can fly larger aircraft. So for that reason, I enable you to choose some initial type ratings. For example, if I want to fly let's say I want to fly the 737-800. When I choose this one, all of these belong to the same family, but you see only this one have been checked, so I can say I want to fly all the 800s. And if I click OK, I would be able to fly this aircraft from the get-go because I'll have an initial type rating for it. And when you choose your difficult setting, you have these two values. How many type ratings can you choose, and for how many families can they be split? I will show this initial type ratings afterwards. You have some factors: how quickly will your rank go up, and how quickly will your type rating points go up, how much are they required? Choosing normal, you will need 100% of the type ratings point for a specific aircraft, but choosing very easy, you only need 75%, and choosing very hard, you will instead need 200%. When you type rate for an aircraft, you will need to fly some hours of training flights in that aircraft before you type rate. With a normal settings, you will need 5 hours, and with an easier setting, it will be more, and with a harder setting, it will be less, and with a harder settings, it will be more hours. Also, the program allows you to substitute aircraft because we don't have all the aircraft available for us in the flight simulator that for which this program have flight plans. For example, if you only have the default Airbus that comes with Microsoft Flight Simulator, but you want to be employed by an airline that flies Boeing aircraft, you are allowed to substitute that Airbus for a Boeing, so you can actually use that Airbus to fulfill those flights. But it's based on a match point. How well does the simulator aircraft you have, how well does that match the aircraft? And it's based on this point value. It's a value between 100 for a perfect match and 0 for the worst match. And here, with a normal setting, you're only allowed to substitute if the aircraft you're substituting score a minimum of 80 points. I will showcase this later in this video. And also that match points will perhaps affect the points you earn in this program. So if you fly an aircraft that only scores 80 points, you will only earn 80% of the points you would otherwise have earned if you chose the correct aircraft. Choosing a very easy setting, the match points go all the way down to 60 and they will not affect the score. But in a normal settings they will. Also, we have this one include taxi phases of the flight. In a normal setting or above, you will only earn flight time for the actual flight time from your takeoff till you land. The taxi out and taxi in phases are not included in the hours you earn, but choosing one of the easy, they will be included. The taxiway phase will be included. When you are employed, you will be you will have a batch of assignments. You will be assigned 10 flights to fly. And with a normal setting, you must commit a flight within 30 days. And all of that batch of 10 flights, you have a total of 180 days to fulfill that batch. I know from time to time things happens in real life that means we cannot fulfill these flights. We cannot carry out these assigned flights. So the program allows you to, when employed, to take a leave of absence. And when you take that leave of absence, you will have, for a normal setting, you can take a leave of absence of 90 days. And when your leave of absence ends, you have to wait at least 7 days before you can ask for a new leave of absence. And while you are on leave of absence, these requirements to fulfilling your assignments will be put on pause. So, for example, 90 days, it's approximately 3 months. So you can, with a normal settings, you can leave things as they are for 3 months and not think about you have to perform these flights. If you fail to meet these requirements, completing a flight within 30 days or completing the total batch within 180 days, you will be fired. And if fired, your loyalty points will go down, and that means it will be more hard for you to find employment at another airline. When you seek employment, from you send in your application till you have an answer, there will be some days before you have that reply, and it will be real life days. So it can be from 3 days to 14 days. You have to wait before you see that reply. And when that apply becomes available, you have a maximum of 16 days to either accept or decline that job offer. If you fail to accept it within this time limit, it will automatically be declined. And also, as you can see down here, there is a penalty. When you apply for a job for an airline, if you fail to accept it or you are declined by the airline, you will have to wait 7 days, real life days, before you are allowed to reapply for a job. So if you're waiting for a reply, it's a good idea to check in at least every 2 weeks to see if you have a job offer. And choosing a hard setting, you only have 7 days, and if you're declined, you have to wait 28 days before you can reapply for that job. And choosing very easy, you have 35 days to accept the job, and if you're declined, you only have to wait 2 days to reapply. And you have a time factor down here. How long time does it take from you send the application till the reply becomes available? It remains normal or higher. It remains at 100%, but choosing easy or very easy, you can see here you only have to wait 50% of the normal wait time. So these were the difficulty settings. As I said, I hate to be forced to fly a small aircraft for a long time. Actually, in Microsoft Flight Simulator, the small aircraft are actually okay. The small aircraft that came with prepared was, all of the aircraft that came default with prepared was not worth much, so I would not fly the small aircraft. I would only fly the one the third-party aircraft I bought. But as I said, you can choose an initial type rating. In order to be able to fly flights in this program, you need to be type rated. If you're not type rated, you can fly training flights, and you can fly training flights in all aircrafts. But in order to be employed by an airline, you need to be type rated for at least one of the aircraft they operate. So, for example, if I wanted to fly the TBM, I could choose to be type rated for the TBM. And as you can see here, we can choose 8 type ratings, and they can be split across 3 families of aircraft. The TBM is the only aircraft in that family, so when I choose it, I only see this one. But as we saw with the 737, these are the aircrafts that include 737. For example, you have the 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, and up to the 900, and you also have the Maxes. But if we choose the 800, you see all the 700s, 800s, and 900s, also the 600, are within the same family. So even though I only chose a single aircraft, I can choose multiple aircraft from that family. So now I have selected a total of 5 type ratings split across 2 different families. So I can choose, for example, the CJ4. The CJ4 is also part of a family that include many aircraft, but we could choose, for example, also to include the Longitude. So now I have selected 7 different type ratings, but they're split across 3 families. And the setting said we can only type rate for 3 families, and that's the reason this button is now disabled. We cannot choose more aircraft. Even though we can choose 8 types, we can only split them across 3 families, and these are the one I have selected. So if I click OK, if I click again, it will only show these. So if you want to start all over, you just click the clear button and you can pick your aircraft again. But these are the initial type ratings that I will choose for this pilot in this example. So I simply click OK. And we are warned we cannot change the gender, the date of birth, the country of origin. So you need to make sure these data are as you want them, and if they are, you just accept them. If we open our logbook, I need to point out, I have this menu item in this debug version of the program. You will not have this menu item. If we open the active logbook, you see my illustration. You're reminded of all of these settings that's bound to the difficulty level. You can change the name of the logbook and the pilot, but gender, rank, birth of date, and country are locked. You can change your SimBrief ID and username if you need to. Over here you see some statistics and totals regarding our logbook, and you can enter some comments if you want to. Right now we just created a logbook. I don't have any experience points. I don't have any type rating points. I do have a very high loyalty score. It's a value between 1 and 0. And here it's close to 1, so it's considered very high. This loyalty score is very important when you look for a job. If you're fired, it will go down. If you don't fulfill your assignments, or if you skip flights, which I'll show later, it will go down. And it's important to keep a very high loyalty score. This is a weighted loyalty score, the one shown up here. It's based on your last 5 employments. So every time you have a job, it's a good idea to try to go aim for a high loyalty score, because it will make it more easy when you apply for jobs. You have some data here regarding our current employment, but as we are currently not employed, we don't see anything. And here in the statistics, we simply see we haven't logged anything. Also, we have not performed any flights as of yet. Here are our initial type ratings. You can see here where it says simulator aircraft. We have not used an aircraft to fly these type ratings flights. We just chose them as initial. So that's why you also see we have no flights, no logged hours, and the date of last flight in this aircraft type is also blank. Here you see your achievements. You always get this achievement for creating the logbook, but otherwise when you have a type rating, whether it's initial type rating or a type rating that you actually fly in an aircraft, they will appear here in the log. You'll see all of these, they are not connected to a specific flight. You only see this dash. Normally you would see which flight number you actually earned this achievement. These achievements are shown in reverse order. One of the achievements you can earn is the Globetrotter achievement, and it will be illustrated here. Right now we just see an outline of the trophy, and that's because we haven't earned it yet. The Globetrotter trophy you will earn performing flights from one country into another country. It will, and there are some more restrictions. I think the flight need to be last at least 30 minutes. But it simply counts how many different countries you have flown in and out of, and that will earn you a Globetrotter trophy. Here we haven't earned anything. I think you need to have left 10 different countries and flown into 10 other countries. And then you will start to earn this. And the first you will earn is the cardboard Globetrotter item, then the iron, then the bronze, and the silver, and the gold, and there'll be ruby and diamond and platinum also. But you'll have to visit a lot of countries to earn those. Here in the last tab sheet, we see your employments. Up here in the top, you'll see data regarding your current employment and how many days you have left to complete the next assignments and all of your assignments, and how many assignments are remaining. Down here you'll see a reverse chronicle list of your employment, so your most recent employment will be in the top. But as of now we're not employed, so of course there's none. As I said in the beginning, you should see this logbook employment feature as an early access, and for that reason I urge you to do a backup of your logbook. And the easiest way is simply going here to File, open User Data folder, and here you will see I only have this logbook, so knowing which one it is very easy. The logbook is simply logbook underscore and then a random GUID. In my case, I both have an LBK file and an XML file. And that's because I am using this debug version of the program. I use the XML directly to debug what is written into the log. But you will only have this binary file, LBK file. So this is the file I urge you to do a backup of. If you know how to make symbolic links, you could place your logbook physical another place on your hard drive and then make a symbolic link. So it appears to be available here, but physical it will be in another place. But otherwise, simply drag this to somewhere else where you know you do a backup. If you use OneDrive or Google Drive or Dropbox and they have a backup feature, you can use that. Otherwise, simply drag it to another folder on your hard drive to do a backup. As I showed in the beginning of the video recording for version 1.17 of the program is describing this feature I call user aircraft. If you're not familiar with that feature, it will be a good idea to revisit this video and see more details about it, but I will show it to you here quickly. In order to be able to apply for a job at an airline, you need to have some type ratings, and for this pilot we chose, we already made some initial type ratings. But also you need to tell the program you have some flyable aircrafts, you have some simulator, so you have some aircraft in your simulator of these types, and you use this menu called user aircraft. I have added all the flyable aircrafts I have for Microsoft Flight Simulator, and actually those I had for prepared I still have here. They are not set as active right now, but sometimes I have used them for debugging this new feature. But you need to add all your flyable aircraft, or at least those aircraft you want to use. In previous version of the program, this was called owned aircraft because it was the aircraft you owned as flyable aircraft in your simulator. In this version, I renamed it to simulator aircraft. So in order to fly an aircraft in this program to use the logbook and employment feature, you need to create those aircraft. In the video I mentioned, I will go into details with this. But if you want to use it very quickly, you can simply add those aircraft and without entering a lot of data. For example, I have chosen to name my simulator aircraft in a specific way. All of those from Microsoft Flight Simulator I prefixed with MSFX, where it was earlier prepared. I then have the name of the company that produced that aircraft. For example, these are Aerosoft. Here's a FlightFX, and these are Microsoft Sober. And then the type of the aircrafts. So that's the way I've chose to name them, and they'll be sorted by this name, so you can name them as you want to. I already have the TBM, but let's add it anyway. I have to choose the type on which my simulator aircraft is based. For example, the TBM. I need to name it, so let's call it my TBM. And that is actually all you have to do. I can press save. And now I have my TBM down here, and for example, we can do the with the CDA4, my CDA4, and it's saved. So that's how you create these aircraft. As I said, I have them already, so I want to delete those we just made. Let's choose the CDA4 I already have here, if I double click it. All of these data that was automatic filled when we create these data is based on the database I supply with this program. If we go here, aircraft types, and I clear, you see the database I supply have data for 436 different aircraft. And for all of these aircraft, I have entered all the data I could find that's useful for this program. So if we go back to use aircraft and choose the CDA4, here it is. I know the type, the usage is a general aviation. It's a 2-engine jet plane. You can enter. I have specified for this aircraft that it has these 2 engine types, but if there are more, you can actually just enter it as free text. It's not important. It's not used by the program, so it's not important. But these values down here are important. They're used when the program generates a load sheet for that for that aircraft. So along with the max passenger count. So in order to know how many passengers you can load and how much cargo you can load, it needs all of these data. And if your simulator aircraft comes with data that's different from the one from my database, it's a good idea to change these so they match the actual simulator aircraft, because it's used for the load sheet. So for the program not to generate too much, too little load, it's a good idea to have these. Also, if your program comes with a loader, a program to load the aircraft, load cargo and passengers, it's a good idea to match these weight values for male, female, and child passengers to match that loader program. But it's all explained in that video recorded for version 117. We have some data regarding the climb phase and the descent phase. These are not used, but the cruise phase, especially this one, is used for some very basic fuel calculations. And you have some performance data for how much runway is required and what's the fuel burn during taxi phases, for example, and so on. So here you have a lot of data you can fill out, change if you want to, but otherwise just use the one I put in the database. A very important part of the simulator aircraft is substitution. Let's choose the Airbus. If I didn't have the PMG 737s and I wanted to seek employment for an airline that utilized those aircraft, but the only one I had flyable was the 320neo, I could go into substitute and I can choose the search for the 737, and you see they are ordered by this score, as I told you about. If I choose 737-900 passenger version, it scores 96, and that means this aircraft is very similar to this aircraft because it have a high score. You see one have 180 passengers, the other 177. The empty operating weight are approximately the same. The maximum takeoff weight for the Boeing is higher and so on, but still they're very similar. So I could choose to say I want, for example, if I choose all of these. So even though I only have the Airbus 320 as a flyable aircraft in my program, I will allow this aircraft to be used as a substitute for these. However, we are not type rated for this aircraft. You see the TR column. I'm not type rated for this one. So if I wanted to have used this one as a substitute for these, I would have to be type rated for this aircraft. But also I actually have the PMD Boeings, so I don't need this one to I don't need this one as a substitute. But as I said, you can only choose this with a setting of normal. You can only choose aircraft with a match score of at least 80. So if I click this one, you see I will not see anyone below this one. This is the lowest score that's above 80, but if I include all of them, you'll see all those types of aircraft. Where this helicopter is only scoring 2, so it's a very bad substitute. I'm allowed to choose this as a substitute. However, you cannot use it to be employed if there are no airlines using this one. But if there were, you cannot. You have this minimum of 80. So a lot of, for example, you cannot choose to use a Cessna 152 as a substitute for Boeing 747. Here you can see the other aircraft that are part of this family. If you want to, you can also tell the programs which repaints you have available for that aircraft. And here you actually see for this aircraft, I have changed these data to match those for the aircraft. A very good example for a substitute. When PMG makes the 777, for example, when they come out with the 777 freighter, I would want to use this aircraft as a substitute for the MD-11. So simply choosing it here, if I type rate for this 777 freighter, I will be able to use this 777 freighter to be employed by airlines that would otherwise use MD-11. So that's how you use the substitute feature. But again, I suggest you to look at the video recording for version 117, as it will tell you more about these aircraft. You simply have to add the aircraft. I have added all of the aircraft I have flyable in the flight simulator. For example, these diamonds, I probably flown them at single time just to see them, but it's and the same with the extra and the F-18. It's not aircraft I fly normally in Microsoft Flight Simulator. So you only have to add those you want to fly, and you don't have to add them now. You can, if you later find, for example, if you have the CRJs, but you don't want to fly them initially, you can postpone adding them here to the program and add them when you want to. But again, you have to add at least one flyable aircraft that you want to fly. If I go to the logbook and say I want to fly a training flight, you can choose all aircraft types, whether you're type rated or not, but you can only choose those you added as a simulator aircraft. So that's why it's important you have to add those you want to fly. At this point, we both have initial type ratings, and we have some of our simulator aircraft created. So we can go ahead and log a flight to flight. In the logbook, we begin new flight. You are not currently employed, so there's no employment flights to flight. Free flights can be flown in all the available aircraft you have that you're type rated for. Training flights can be flown in all of your simulator aircraft, whether you're type rated or not. or a type rating flight can be flown in simulator aircraft for which you have met the requirement to be type rated. And for example, if we go in here and choose the type, for example here, if I want to type rate for this aircraft, I need to have a type rating score of 77.879. And right now I haven't flown anything. My current type rate score is 0. So it will be a long time before I can type rate for the 777. Also, to type rate for an aircraft with the normal difficult settings, you need at least 5 hours of training flights in this aircraft. So if I choose this menu item, I want to type rate, I'm simply told there's no aircraft I currently can type rate for. So let's do a free flight. And as I said, free flight you can fly in your simulator aircraft for which you currently are type rated. So let's choose the CJ4. First we see some initial settings over here. That's currently the status of this flight entry is we are creating this log entry. The category, it's free flights. These are logged, but you can choose to set whether it's an IFR, VFR flight. These fields are not important. It's just for you to indicate if this flight was flown using VFR, IFR rules. And it's only for statistical reason. If you look at this flight entry a long time from now, you can see how you chose to fly it. Here you can choose which simulator you're using, and you can indicate which logging method you used. As of now, as I said in the beginning of this video, this program is not connected to the simulator, so it's not actually recording the flight. But hopefully I will be able to implement it using FSU ICP, so it can record the flight at a later time, but not in this version. Up here you choose where you're departing from and where your destination is, and you can also choose your alternates. Here you can choose which simulator aircraft are we using, which aircraft type is that simulator based on what's you can see the usage, the engine type, but most important, you can see the match score. How well does this simulator type match the actual type of the aircraft? And since this CJ4 simulator is based on this type, it have a match score of 100. Down here you can see the pilot, and as I said regarding your birthday, it's simply used to calculate this age. I didn't enter my own birthday, so this is not my age. You can see down here how many flight attendants are necessary for this flight. If you have a passenger aircraft with more than 20 passenger, you would need a flight attendant for each 50 passengers. If it's a commercial flight, you can see or choose the carrier and the operator, the flight number, the registration number. Here you can enter the call sign. It's only used for against the statistical data. If you look at this flight a long time from now, you can see what you chose. Over here you have information about the flight. This is a free flight. If it was a commercial flight loaded from one of the flight plans bundled with this program, you would see the scheduled departure time and destination time of that flight. Here you can enter when you expect to go. The out time is when you leave the gate, the off time is when you take off, the on time is when you land, and the in time is when you arrive at the gate at the destination airport. Right now it's the same time for all of them because we haven't chosen departure destination yet. And all of these time you both have a simulator time and real time. And the reason I want to have both is because some programs do not allow you to use accelerated time in the simulator. And in the past I have flown 8 and 11 hours flights, but these days I don't have the time for it, and I find them boring to sit 8 hours just to perform a long flight. So I would use accelerated time, and that would mean that my real time would be shorter than my simulator time. For example, an 8-hour flight I might perform in 3 hours or 4 hours or something like that. And that's the reason I want to have both, because the time you are credited for, the flight time, I don't think if you fly a 8-hour flight in 4 hours, I don't think you should be credited for 8 hours. I think you should be credited for 4 hours. And that's why you have both of these. Right now, they're not so important. They will be important if and when I make it able to connect to the simulator while you perform the flight and obtain the data from the simulator. The program also enables you to generate a load sheet. Here you have some information about the aircraft, and they are simply obtained from your simulator aircraft. So you cannot change the values, you can just see in here what they are. And what's important is the amount of fuel you can carry and the amount of payload you can carry, because it's matched with the load sheet and the fuel calculation. The fuel calculation performed within this program is very simple. It will simply be the trip hours multiplied by the fuel burn entered to the aircraft. And the same with the taxi out time will be the taxi fuel burn multiplied by this value. So if possible, I would suggest you use other programs to calculate the fuel, and then you can simply disable this auto-calculate and simply enter the values in here. And last, we have this common field where you can enter whatever you want, and you can specify if you during your flight have an emergency, you can specify which kind of emergency and when it occurred. But let's choose airports. I would choose Aalborg, Denmark as my departure. And I will choose Marseille, France as my destination. When I have entered these fields, I now have a calculated distance. And based on this distance, I try to calculate the flight time. And it will choose an out time when I'm going to leave the gate, based on the taxi out time that I have specified. Either it's manually specified for some aircraft, for some airport where I could obtain the data. It's the correct data. Otherwise, it's simply a calculated taxi out time based on the size of the airport. It's a very simple calculation, but it's obtained here from the database. Here in this example, it's simply calculated out time. It estimates the taxi out time of Aalborg Airport is 9 minutes, and the taxi in time is 4 minutes. But clicking here and choosing route info, I can actually change that time. If I say, oh no, it will not be 9 minutes, it'll only be 5. When I choose that, the values over here will change. So if I leave the gate at 27 minutes and it takes 5 minutes to taxi out, I expect to take off 5 minutes later. Then the difference between this value and this value is the calculated or estimated flight time, in this case 2 hours and 18 minutes. And then again for Marseille Airport, we have an estimated taxi in of 5 minutes. So that's the difference here. So if we take off at 12:27 UTC, we expect to be in at 14:55. So these are simply estimated times. If I go to my load sheet, when I do a free flight, it does not automatically generate a load sheet, but you can simply hit the randomize button. Here it's randomized to be a total of 7 passengers, of which 5 are male, 2 are female, no children. And then it calculates the weight of those passengers. And that calculation is based on the values we have over here, that the weight of estimated average weight of male, female, and child passengers. Also, the luggage, you can choose if it's a domestic flight or an internal flight, or you can simply choose to manually specify the weight of the luggage. And again, those values are based on the value you have here for your simulator aircraft. And these, as I said before, these should match the loader you have for that aircraft. Many of the advanced aircraft available for Microsoft Flight Simulator, they have a loader using the tablet near the pilot's view. And using that tablet, you can choose the loadout, and if you match those values you enter for the aircraft with those for the loader, it should be on spot. Here, as I said, it's a very basic fuel calculation. We specified a taxi out time of 5 minutes, and 5 minutes using this taxi fuel burn will amount to this amount here. And you can see the weight in settings of the program. You can choose if your program should default to pounds or kilo. In this case, I default to pounds, and that I will see all weight values in pounds. So we expect to burn 43 pounds of fuel during the taxi phase. The trip was estimated 2 hours and 18 minutes, and 2 hours of 18 minutes burning 517 pounds each minute. We expect to have a trip burn of 1909 pounds of fuel, and then it calculates contingency fuel and final reserve and so on. But let's transfer the data we have here to SimBrief. I simply hit this button, dispatch via SimBrief. These 2 fields up here and all of those you have here, you also have on SimBrief, and you can simply you also have them in settings, and in settings you choose the default values listed here, and those default values you can change. Say, I don't want runway analysis, I can disable it here. These fields over here are data we can choose to not send to SimBrief. And the reason you might not want to send them to SimBrief is because if you send them to SimBrief, SimBrief will use the data you sent. But if you don't send them, SimBrief will estimate the values to use. For example, this one is specified with a cruise level of 31,000 feet. I can choose to suppress this cruise altitude. If I suppress it, it means I will not send this value to SimBrief. Hence, SimBrief will estimate our cruise level. Also, I can say I want to suppress my alternates. So if I chose an alternate, I can say I don't want to send that alternate. In this case, I didn't specify any. So whether I suppress it or not, SimBrief will actually estimate or calculate which alternate to use, so it's not important. I can choose if I want to suppress these data regarding the aircraft, meaning I will not send these to SimBrief, hence SimBrief will use the data it have already regarding this aircraft. You can practice what you want, if you want to suppress it or not. I don't want to suppress the captain name. So the captain name I choose, I want to inform SimBrief, so it's using the same captain name as I choose. I want, however, to suppress the flight time. The flight time, this flight was calculated for 2 hours and 18 minutes, and it's just a basic calculation that not look at the weather at all. So I rather use the flight time calculated by SimBrief. So hence I want to suppress the flight time and then let SimBrief choose the flight time, the time it takes to fly the flight. And I've also chosen, if you look here, if you choose route info, the program have obtained the meta for this airport. From this meta, it have extracted the wind direction and the strength of that wind, and that's used to choose the runway. But I can instead choose I want to let SimBrief choose that one, so I want to suppress the runways. So these are the data I choose to send to SimBrief. So I simply click OK. Here are the data we sent to SimBrief and how SimBrief is doing its own calculation. We chose the departure and arrival or destination airport, and SimBrief chose an alternate. And this is aircraft. It's a good idea to always verify this. It's actually the same aircraft. And SimBrief have a climb profile, cruise profile, and so on. And yeah, you probably know how to use SimBrief, so I would simply click generate flight. That's it. The flight is now generated. We can close down this window. And now we can choose to import the data from SimBrief. And it retrieves the data from SimBrief and presents this in text form. It's just to be displayed for you. You can choose to copy it to the clipboard and then copy and paste it and save it if you want to. But otherwise, now we have to choose what do we want to import from SimBrief. We can choose to import the route info. And you have 4 formats. I will show you later how that works. We can choose to import the cruise altitude, the winds, the meta and the TAF, which runways to use. We can choose whether or not we want to update the alternates, and in this case we want to. The taxi times we can update, and if SimBrief has chosen a different out time, we can choose that. I want to import the flight time. I want to import the planned time. I can choose to import the load sheet, the number of passengers and cargo. I don't want that because I already set it up and I transferred the data, so the calculation based in SIM fields are based on the data we sent. I certainly want to update my fuel weight because I think SimBrief is doing a better, more precise job because it takes headwind and so on into these calculations. And I can choose whether I want to download and import the flight plan as well. And I choose to do that, so I click OK. And now a lot of the data have been updated. For example, the fuel weights are now based on the data SimBrief calculated. And if we go here and look at the route info for the departure airport, this asterisk shown down here tell me that even before I select the tab sheet down here, I can see it contains data. The route both contains an asterisk and a plus sign. The asterisk means it have the route as a text, but it have additional fields also updated, and that's why I see the plus. So first here we see the meta and the TAF obtained from SimBrief. And if we look here, we have the route. And those additional data is the step climb. I should have looked in SimBrief because this was not the best route to import. So we have these crazy amount of steps here. But it's normally you'll have to do that in SimBrief. We see the ARIX cycle on which these data are based. We have a cost indexed, climb profile, cruise profile, a descent profile. These are only informative data, and I would like to keep them because if I look at a flight I did long time ago, I can see how it was performed. When you actually fly this flight, you can enter. It's optional, but if you want to, you can enter the taxiway you are asked to use by ATC, you can choose which gate you either arrived at or departed from. The sits and transition is extracted here from the route if available. What I would normally do, it depends on the ATC program I'm using. In the past, I've used an ATC program where I would have to manually tell the program which gate I would want to depart from or arrive at. If I use that program, I would probably go in here, airport info, look at the gates. I would select, in this case, I'll use 11 or 12, so let's choose parking 11. So I'd simply here choose parking 11. That's it, and it's only informative. If I look at this flight a long time from now, I could see that I actually departed from gate 11. So you have a lot of information that's optional if you want to use them or not. Also, we see that SimBrief added this alternate. And here on this alternate, we probably also, we have route information describing the route from the destination to this alternate, if we choose this alternate instead. So that's how you create a log entry. And you simply click OK. And you're warned some of the data you can only tell the program when you create the flight. So you should look everything through and see if it is like it is. But now it's added, and actually, because I have this plan enabled here, I can actually see this is the active plan. This program is not a flight planner, so you will not see a lot of information regarding this route. If we view the current flights, we chose to import the flight plan from SimBrief. So this is actually the flight plan SimBrief have generated. And it has been imported here where we can see that we can see the phase of the flight, takeoff, climb, cruise, and we end here the descent and landing. We can see which procedures are used. We can see which airways are used. And for each waypoint, for example, here we can see to go from Aalborg Airport to this VOR AAL, we will have to fly a course of 178 for 4.8 miles, and it estimates to take 1 minute, and it's part of the climb phase. And we can see the estimated altitude, and these data are simply based on the flight plan we imported from SimBrief. If connected to the simulator and flying this flight, you would be able to click this show user aircraft, and you will see an illustration of an aircraft, so you can see it along this flight. As said before, I would like to actually record that flight, so you both see the planned route and you can see the flown route and so on, but it's not in the program now, and hopefully I'll have the time to add it, but I'm not sure. So at this moment, it's time to start up your simulator. Choose this aircraft, load your flight plans, and fly the flight. While you fly the flight, you can choose this menu items as we did. View current flights. When I have spoken to ATC and I know which gate I'm leaving, I know the taxiway I'm using during the taxi out phase, you can enter them here. Also, you can change these times. So if you know, actually we took off 33 instead of 32, and we landed at 55, and we arrived at like that instead. You can enter the actual times it took instead of those calculated by the program. And as you see, you have a column. You can enter them in UTC time or you can enter them in local times. It's up to you. These fields are also intended to be used when I can log the flight from the flight simulator, because then you can choose to tell if you skip time. Some times you can skip in the flight simulator. You can skip from one waypoint to another, so you should not be credited for flying that flight for that amount of time because you simply skipped. And likewise, if you paused the flight simulator for some time, you had to do something, you should not be credited for that pause time either. So it's intended you can enter these data here. But let's say we've flown the flight, we finished. We now come in and tell the program we want to commit this flight. And as you can see, a lot of the fields are locked. You can choose to specify where you landed. For example, program thinks you will land at the destination, but perhaps you chose to land at the planned alternate, or you can choose another airport and say you landed, for example, so if we landed in Nice instead, we can choose that it was here we landed. But let's just choose the normal. And as you can see, if I hold Control while I click it, it will delete it. And as we spoke about before, you can enter the actual times we landed. A very important thing to enter is... it's not important now, but it will be important later, because these data are based on my database. I would like to refine these data actually using the actual fuel burn from your flight. So these data will be updated, and for that to work, it will need to know how much fuel you burned, and for that you need to enter the remaining fuel. So this is the estimated final reserve. So let's just say this was the actual, so you can enter that here. And here, if you have any comments to the flight, you can enter them here. Or for example, if you had to declare an emergency, you can choose which kind of emergency, enter some text, and enter the UTC time when this emergency occurred. But let's say everything was okay. So we simply click OK. And again, we are warned that some things we cannot change. When the flight is locked, all we can change is actually the comments. And since this is our very first flight we have performed, we have now earned an achievement for logging our first flight. So if we look at our logbook, we now can see we have performed one flight. It lasted 2 hours and 22 minutes. And we can see the total distance, and we can see some more information. We are still private pilot. You will not rank up when you're flying these free flights. But now we have one flight logged. If we double click it, we can see all the info. And as I said, more or less all you can change now is the comments. All the rest is logged. Now we have this extra achievement, and we can see this achievement is associated with flight number 1. And you see here, we now have, these are all the achievements related to this flight. Also, if we look at our simulator aircraft, we now have this tab sheet log flight. We can see all the flights we have flown in this simulator aircraft. And actually there's only one, and again, double clicking it will be taken to the same log entry. We can see the data. The same goes for the airports. If I search for Aalborg, Denmark, we also have this logged flights. You can see we have an outbound flight from this airport. These inbound and outbound flights are used to calculate a familiarity score. It tells the how well you are known about this airport. And it's actually used when you apply for a job. If we apply for an airline that have flights in and out of Aalborg, you'll get a small bonus based on how well you know this airport. Right now, it's only a 4% score, so it doesn't account for much, but it's a little bonus that makes it more easy for you to land a job at an airline utilizing those airports that you have visited. As I said previous, the data you saw, what we want to transfer to SimBrief, what we want to get back from SimBrief, and also our ID and so on. You can set up here what our default is. For example, I want to suppress the cruise altitude. I don't want to send a cruise altitude to SimBrief. I want SimBrief to use its data instead of using the data I sent. I wanted to keep my captain's name, so I choose to not suppress it. I want to send the captain name. And I want to suppress the runways also, so SimBrief will choose the runways to choose for departure and destination. And here I can choose what I want to update from SimBrief. I want route info, winds, runways, alternatives, taxi times. I want the flight time imported, the flight time calculated by SimBrief. I want the distance imported. And this one I want the normal. So these are the defaults I want to use. So let's just see how it looks if we perform the same 3 flights. We choose the CDA4. We randomize the load sheet. This is what I want to send to SimBrief. So now, I will no longer suppress captain's name. These are the data we sent. We let SimBrief generate the flight. And once generated, we can import it. And these are the things. So when you have in settings set them as you want, you simply click OK, and it will import it. So that's how we do the free flights. Let's look how we get employed by an airline. Right now, we only have we have created our logbook. We have added all our flyable aircraft. And we have our initial type ratings. Right now we have only flown a single flight in the CDA4, but let's go look for a job. We simply choose this one, apply for job. And when you apply for a job, it's very important you specify your settings for you know this search form already. It's the same utilized, but it allows you to specify what you want to do in that job, and based on this criteria it will show you your potential employers. So let's choose none aircraft, and then say we want to choose a job flying the 737. and we type rated for the 800. So let's choose all of the 800s for which there are scheduled flights. And normally I don't want to fly flights less than 1 hour, because if you need to use this program, you need to send data to SimBrief, you might have other programs you want to set up. For example, you want to use Navigraph to choose which chart to display and so on. So you will have a lot of setup time for your flights, and then just to use a lot of setup time to fly a 30-minute flight is not something I want to do. So I want my flights at least to last 1 hour. And as I said before, I don't like the long flights unless I use accelerated time. So I want to choose perhaps a maximum of 4 hours. So this is the criteria I want to set up for finding potential employers. So I simply click OK. And these are the potential employers based on both those criteria. My simulator aircraft and the type ratings I have. And based on those data, these are all the employers by which I can be employed. Since this our first flight, you can see up here we have a weighted loyalty score of 0.95. We have only logged 2 hours, one flight, and our experience points is very low. It means it will be very hard for us to land a job at anything other than an airline classified as a tiny. Whenever you choose a potential employer over here, you will have this advisory text that is used for advising you if this would be a good idea to employ for a job here. And you see here with this airline is classified as a minor airline, but we actually only have a 3% chance for landing a job at this airline, and that's simply because our experience point is very low. If I choose this one classified as a tiny, we actually have a 81% chance for landing a job here. So what I want to choose a tiny airline, but I would like a tiny airline with many different routes. For example, if I employed for a job at this airline, I would be assigned at least 10 flights to fly. But in order to have a good loyalty score, you're told here to have a perfect loyalty score, don't skip any flights and fly at least 50 flights, assigned flights. I would say when you fly at least 30 flights, you have a pretty good loyalty score. It's only to have a perfect score of 1, you need to fly 50. So flying 30 times, these 6 routes, flying them 30 times, it means at least every route I will fly at least 5 times. So that's not so interesting, having to fly the same routes again and again. So what I'm looking for is a tiny airline with lots of routes. For example, this one, it's classified as a tiny, but they have 34 routes I could fly. Here we have tiny with 5, 13, and so on. We can actually, if you use the filter criteria, we can set up a filter to only choose aircraft with this is tiny and small. If I choose like this, I will only see aircraft specified as tiny. So if I choose a job at Airbus, it's still classified as a tiny airline, but I will have 83 routes to choose from. And if you right-click and choose this usage report, you can see more info about this airline. You can see what have been detected as the primary and secondary hubs. which airports do they go into, which routes, countries, which route do they fly a lot of times, which aircraft types do they have, which airports do they visit. For example, this one I have chosen as one of my favorite airports. I can see which aircraft types go in and out of this aircraft, and I can see the T tell me I'm type rated, and the S tell me I have a simulator aircraft based on that type. So it's all of these. I can actually operate all of the flights because they only operate this one aircraft type based on my search. They operate this aircraft type for which I'm type rated. But let's choose the one up here. This is the one I want to seek employment at. I have an 83% chance of landing this job. I am type rated for one of the aircraft they use, and I'm told because this is my first one, I have a higher chance because it's specified as a tiny. I have an airport familiarity score of 0.01. It's a very, very small bonus, but I get at least a little bonus because I know the airport's a little, but it's very little. And you begin with this artificial high employment score. So let's send our application to this airline. And we are reminded that the data we specified up here, these criteria, if and when we are employed, a batch of 10 assignments will be generated for us to fly, and those 10 assignments will be based on the criteria data we specified here. So, for example, if I had not specified this criteria here, it would be a good idea, if I don't want to fly anything less than 1 hour or more than 4 hours, it would be a good idea to specify those criteria before I send my application. And also you're asked to look at the advisory if you haven't done so, because again, here we have an 83% chance of actually for this application to be accepted. So it's a good job to apply for. So we choose to apply. And because this is our very first job application, you will have the answer within the hour. It not specify a specific time. It's a random time based on certain criteria. So all it tells us is within the hour, and it's a real-time hour. So normally you will have to wait. What I suggest you do is, when you have sent your application, simply perform, if you want to fly, perform some free flights or training flights or whatever you want. In this development version, I can choose to cheat. I can see here our application is, in fact, it will be accepted. So I can simply press this button, make available. And you'll, of course, not have that option, cheat option. But once your application is accepted, if the program is running, this window will pop up and say you now have a reply to review. It will not tell you if it's accepted or not. It will just tell you have a reply. So you'll have to go here and look for your reply. And in this case, we can see that this person, a human resource officer, write to us and congratulates us that the job is ours if we want it. And you can see at which rank you will be hired. We don't have any rank points, so we begin at the bottom. We begin as a junior first officer. In total, there are 9 ranks. You begin as junior first officer, then you'll be first officer, then experienced first officer, then finally senior first officer. Then you'll be captain in training. After that, you'll be captain, and then experienced captain, senior captain, and you will end at training officer, in charge of training first officers at the airline. And you can choose to accept or decline. Based on the difficult settings, we have 16 days remaining to either choose. So I can click close and continue flying the free flights or training flights, but let's just accept this application. And we are now told that flights, we will have to perform at least one flight every 30 days. And we have a total of 180 days to commit those 10 flights that was assigned to us. Now when we look at our logbook, we can see that our rank is Junior First Officer. We can see we are hired by this airline, but we have not logged any flights, not logged any hours. And our loyalty score now dropped to 0.5. It's very low. So if we go look for a job now, let's choose Tiny again. Here, before we had an 86% chance of landing a job here at this airline. Now it dropped to 19. And that's simply because we have this very bad loyalty score. And the only way to increase your loyalty score is simply fulfilling those flights you are assigned. Right now, we don't see very loyal to this airline because we haven't flown any of the assigned flights. So we need to fly those flights in order to increase our rank. Also, you see we are 0% our rank to the next rank. And if we look here, we can see we have been assigned 10 flights. We have not completed any. We have not skipped any of our assignments. And we have a completion factor of 0%. And our loyalty score at this airline is 0.5. We have 30 days to commit a flight, 180 days to commit all 10 flights. And we can see we have 10 flights remaining. And this parenthesis says 7. It's because every time you are assigned 10 flights, you are allowed to skip 3 of them. However, if you skip a flight, it will affect your completion factor, which again will affect your loyalty score. So to have a perfect loyalty score, don't skip any flights. As I said when I described the difficult settings of your logbook, I said you can ask for a leave of absence. And here you can request the number of days you want to take a leave of absence. And with a normal setting, with a normal difficult setting, you can choose a maximum of 90 days. So if I click this button, I will request a 90-day leave of absence. So if you need to go on a prolonged vacation or work in a foreign country or whatever, if you have a long time where you know you will not have time to commit flights, it's a good idea to ask for a leave of absence. Otherwise, you'll be fired from that airline. If you have a longer period of time where you cannot fly, that's longer than what you can ask for a leave of absence, it's actually better to quit your job instead of being fired from your job. Being fired from a job will have a very bad influence on your loyalty score. Quitting a job will also have a impact, but not as severe. So better to ask for a leave of absence. When we are employed as we are now, we can actually see the routes that we can be assigned. Right now, the displayed flight plan is for Brussels Airline, but what we can do is we can go into the leg search and we can choose to load. These criteria can be saved, and you have this employment. The program will automatically create this file, and this file is actually based on your current employment. So if I load these criteria and do a search, you see this is the number of routes we actually saw when we applied for the job that was available for us based on our criteria. And now you simply loaded those same criteria here. So those 10 flights we have been assigned will be one of these that we see displayed here. But what we do is we simply go to the logbook, and now this menu item is active. And here you see these are the 10 flights we have been assigned, and they have to be flown in this order. So the data you see up here is for the very first flight. We can see the departing airport, our destination. Here we can choose, the program will suggest an aircraft, and we can see the score down here. In this case, we only have this one available. We can see the details for this aircraft. It's not important. But we can simply choose to fly this flight. So let's say we want to fly this assignment. We simply click this button. And this is the same form as we saw before. The aircraft, simulator aircraft, which type it's based. It's a passenger flight. This time it's based on an airline, so the carrier and the operator will be filled out here. We can see the flight number. We can see the registration number. Based on that, this will be our call sign. This is the call sign of the airline, and this is the flight number. Since we are junior first officer, and this aircraft is specified with a crew of 2, we will fly with a captain. In this case, Mr. Connor Lynch, age 60, and us as the first officer. We'll see down here that the program have calculated that there need to be 3 flight attendants. As I said, if there are more than 20 passengers, there need to be a flight attendant for each 50 passenger. And that's based on the load sheet. So here we have a load sheet of 150. If that was 151, there will be 4 flight attendants. This is our load sheet. We cannot change the departure destination because it's based on the flight we have been assigned. Of course, we can change the flight sheet and so on, but let's send our data to SimBrief. We generate the flight. There it is. We choose to import the data. And this is what we set up in settings, so we just click OK. So now we have an alternative. We had a better fuel calculation. If we look here, we have the route imported. We have our cost index, climb, cruise and descent profile, so on. And here the flight plan is imported as well. So we simply click OK. And we are again reminded that some data we cannot change. So now we have here in blue the route we are supposed to fly. And you will start your simulator and fly that flight. And as before, while you perform the flight, if you want to, if it's important to you, you can enter the gate you departed, the taxiway you were handed by ATC, and the same when you come to the destination, you can choose the taxiway and the gates and so on. But it's totally optional. It's not important for the program. I will do it for my programs because I would like to see it. If I look at a flight later, I would like to see which gate I departed from and so on. But let's say you've flown the flight in the simulator and now you want to commit it, so you should set your actually out, off, on, in times, and you should here in the load sheet you should specify remaining fuel. Let's say it was 6227. 6225 is quick. And I simply click OK. And we are warned that some things we cannot change. And here we earned 2 achievements. We earned an achievement for 100 or more passengers, and we earned an achievement for 10,000 pounds of luggage cargo or more. And if we look our logbook, you can see that we now have 1.7% in our progress to the next rank. If we look here, our loyalty score is slowly increasing. It was 0.5, as I recalled before. Still very low if we are going to look for another flight. So next time you go in assignment flights, we flew the first one of the 10 assigned, so there's only 9 left. But as I said, you're allowed to, for each 10, you're allowed to skip 3 flights. If for some reason I don't want to fly this one, I can choose to skip it. But again, it's best not to skip flights, but it's better for you to specify criteria that only find flights you want to fly. It's better to specify criteria instead of skipping flights. Next, when you have flown all these 9 remaining flights, a new batch of 10 flights will be generated, and they will be based on the same searching criteria. So if you want to change your criteria, it's better to change the criteria than skipping flights. Without getting too political, in the current situation of the world, perhaps you don't want flights that go in and out of Russia or Ukraine. So what you can do is you can simply choose to say, I want to exclude flights to from Russia and to fly Ukraine. So now you have specified to avoid those. The text you enter here is the 3-letter ISO code for the countries, and you can see those country codes here in this list. So here I've specified to avoid these 2 countries. So next time routes will be generated, it will exclude those 2 countries. In your case, you'll have to fly these flights. In this debug version of the program, I have a cheat feature. I have used it to testing this program. So what I can do is I can choose the aircraft. For example, this 800 passenger. And I can choose to fly, let's pick 30 flights. And I choose to not obtain the META and TAF because it will take approximately 1 second per airport. So I'm just pretending to have flown these 30 flights without actually doing it. So when I open the logbook, you see after these, we did 1 flight and before, and then we did cheated these 30 flights. So based on these 31 flights, we are 89.9% away to having our rank increased from junior first officer. You see, we've flown 32 flights. We started with a free flight in the CJ4, and then we have flown 31 flights here. And we can also down here see that we have logged 1 free flight, and we have logged 31 assignment flights, employment flights. We can see our totals here, distance, passenger carried, and so on. We can see average. Our average flight time is 1.5 hours. 507 number of passengers, number of cargo luggage, transport, fuel burn, and so on. We can see which aircraft type we have flown based on time, sorted by time or sorted by hours of flights. We can see how many countries we have flown in and out of, which countries we have flown most in. For example, here you can see most have been performed in Italy. Which airports we have. I think it's a maximum of top 50 airports, but right now we have only visited 14 departure airports. So these are the ones listed here, and 17 destination airports. Which routes we have flown the most, and so on. Still, we haven't earned any Globetrotter trophy. Here we see all our flights. We haven't had more type ratings, but these are the aircraft we have used. We have all of our achievements. This was our free flight. Then we sent an application. Then we was hired, and we were hired as a junior first officer, and then all of these flights we have committed. Amount of cargo, amount of passenger. Here we have 5 flights. Here we have 11 hours at the same airline. Here we have 20 flights in the same aircraft type, and it's also the same simulator aircraft. And here we have an achievement for having flown 20 different routes. And now when you look at, as I said, as soon as we have flown at least 30 flights, we have a very high loyalty score. Let's choose to skip a flight and see how that affects our loyalty score. So you have here 976. So we go in here. And we choose to skip an assignment. You see here we have 3 skips. Now we only have 2 skips left in this batch of 10. And if we go look at our logbook, this was before 976, I think, but it's dropped a little. And you see our completion factor, it's no longer 100 because we skipped a flight. We have completed 31 and skipped 1. So it had a little negative effect on our loyalty score. But let's cheat again and do 20 more flights. So we choose the same aircraft. 20, not obtain this one. So now we have been raised in rank. We are no longer junior first officer, we are first officer, and we are actually halfway to the next rank already. Still no Globetrotter trophy, and that's because we have to depart and arrive at 10 different countries, and I'm not sure it's possible with the routes available for this airline. But if we look at our achievements, we'll see here it was flight 37 that our rank was. We were promoted from junior first officer to first officer. And if you look here at the employment, we have a very high loyalty score now. And we can see here that we were hired as a junior first officer at this date, and we are still employed as junior first. We are now we are still employed, but now our rank is first officer. So let's look at our experience points is 67 now. And our type rating points is 84. So let's say we want to type rate for the Airbus 320 Nero. So we need to look what we need experience point. So if you look here, aircraft type, and I type 30, we need 49 type rating points, and we have 84, so we have enough type rating points, but we have no flight time in this aircraft. If I say I want to type rate, there's nothing I can type rate for. So what we can do is we need to fly some training flights. And training flights, you can choose any aircraft you have added as simulator aircraft, no matter what the type rating score is. For example, no, I don't have that one. Let's add it. User aircraft, add. So now we have the Antonov 225, and if I choose to do a training flight, you see it requires, for me to type rate for this, it requires a very high number, 146, and I only have 83, so there will be a long time before I can type rate for this aircraft, but actually I can already start flying the training flights in it. So while you are employed, if you want to fly for some variants to try something else, you can stay employed by this airline and simply choose this one for training flights. And when you fly a training flight, you can manually select your departure and destination and so on. But let's train for being able to type rate for the 320. So we choose the training flight. And we choose the Nero. And we need to choose departure airport. So let's choose Copenhagen. And let's fly to Rome, Italy. Because we are not type rate for this aircraft, you see the captain and we have this parenthesis TO. We are flying with a training officer or instructor, call it what you want, but the program referred to it as a training officer. So we fly with this person as a training officer, and we fly as a first officer on this flight. By default, a training flight, it will not generate a load sheet, but we can do it using the randomize option. And normally I would send the data to SimBrief and import again from SimBrief, but to not stress the server with me simply doing this video, I will not do it now, but normally I would. So we simply have this training flight. It's estimated to 2 hours and 3 minutes of flight time. And we simply commit the flight again. As I'm showing you here, you can cheat if you want to. As of now, not connected to the program. The program cannot see if you actually fly this flight in the simulator or not. So if cheating is your thing, you can do so. I see here that they default to explain 12. I need to change that, but I'll do that afterwards. I will simply I'll simply commit the flight, specify remaining fuel, and now if I look here at the type 320, you'll see I have actually logged 2 hours of flight time is in this Nero, but still I need 5 hours. And you can see that looking at your logbook and looking at your settings, you can see this line that required training hours to type rate is 5 hours. So we need to log more time. Also, it's worth mentioning only your assigned employment flights count to your rank. So when you perform training flights or free flights or whatever, it will not increase your rank. Only assigned flights will. So let's begin a new training flight in the 320 and simply the reverse course from Liège back to Copenhagen. And again, normally I would send it and import it for SimBrief, but not doing it here. So again, we could just commit the flights. And still we are not having enough time to type rate. We only flown 4 hours and 6 minutes, so if I go in and say I want to type rate, we're told there's nothing I can type rate for. So let's do another one. Sorry. Why not the same? So at this point we should have enough time. We need 5 hours and we have now logged 6 hours in this aircraft. So we now have enough, we certainly have enough type rating points. We need 49 and we have 86 and we need 5 hours of flight time and we have 6. So we are ready to type rate for this aircraft. So now when we go in here and choose we want to have a type rating, we can actually choose this aircraft. This aircraft is based on a family of aircraft. And our settings tell us that we can type rate for 8 different aircrafts. So even though we fly the flight in this 320, we can type rate for more. So let's type rate for all the 320s and 321s. So all of these 6 we will now type rate for, even though we only fly in this one, but because they're the same family, we can choose them. So these are the one we want to type rate for. Again, we fly with a training officer and we are serving as first officer. And we can choose to randomize. A feature I actually forgot to tell you about is when you create a flight, you have these checks. These checks are automatic performed. You can disable them and perform them manually. But right now it tells us we have not selected a departure and destination. We have not entered any block fuel. We have an estimated takeoff and landing weight, and we are reminded that a type ratings flights are only valid if lasting more than 30 minutes. And right now we haven't specified anything. The estimated flight time is estimated 0, so it's not enough. So let's say we want to reverse the course we flew before from Liège back to Copenhagen. But right now it's a type rating flight. And our checks over here just tell us that the estimated takeoff weight is estimated to this and the estimated landing weight is estimated to this value. And we see no warnings, but for example, if we change this to 180 passengers, we now see our takeoff weight will exceed our maximum landing weight. It's not an error, but it's just a warning. It means our takeoff weight exceeds our max landing weight, means if we take off and we have an issue, we should ideally burn or dump some fuel before we get back to the airfield. And it calculates we need to burn 700 pounds of fuel before we get back, or based on this fuel burn in cruise, it estimates we have to fly for 23 minutes before we come back to the airports in order to burn that fuel. It's not an issue, it's just something you need to be aware of. But if you load more cargo, we can be too heavy. This is the max of cargo we can add in order to not increase our zero fuel weight, and so on. So you'll have very warnings. It's a good idea to keep an eye of these values. Let's just regenerate the load sheet. So we're now ready to perform our type rating flight. Again, at this time, the program is not connected to the flight simulator. In the future, if I have the time to add the feature, I would like it to monitor your flight, perhaps give you instructions what it wants you to do on this type rating flight. For example, climb to a certain altitude, perform various maneuvers, and so on. But as of now, it's up to you to fly this flight and judge for yourself if you think you did a good job or not. But once we commit this flight, again, we should add our remaining fuel. These are all the types we chose to type rate for. So now we are actually type rate for the Airbus. These were our initial type rating. We didn't fly it in a simulator aircraft, but all of these type ratings we actually obtained by using this aircraft, and we can see this is the only aircraft we actually flew physical in. We have performed 4 flights. We performed 3 training flights, and then we performed the type rating flight. So now we are type rated for this aircraft. So actually we can start looking for a job where we need to use the Airbus 320 Nero. So let's do that. Before doing that, let's look at our employment. We have a very high loyalty score at this airline. We are first officer still, and we are a little more than halfway to our next rank. But when you apply for a job, our rank score will drop, so your rank will also drop when you apply for a new job. So let's go apply for a job. We need to change our criteria. If we choose none and 320 and say we only want job utilizing the 320 Nero, we still keep this 1 hour, 4 hours. So these are the jobs we can apply for. Here at a tiny airline, we have 87% chance of landing a job. If we choose a huge, you see we only have 1.9%. So that's not a good idea. Choosing a minor, we have 65% now. For example, a medium, we have about 50%. I'm always looking for one with a high route total. It means I will have many different routes to choose among. Here we have 61. This is a major, so we only have 45% chance. Again, a huge. We have to. We need to have a lot more experience point to land a job at a huge airline. So we still need to do a lot of flights. Let's choose this one. We only have a 54% chance, so it's almost 50-50 if we'll be accepted or not, but let's risk it and send an application to this airline. Now, since it's not our first, we'll have to wait 4 to 6 real-life days before we have a reply. And as said before, in those 4 to 6 days, you can keep flying assignment flights. We still employed by this airline, so we can fly assignment flights. We can fly free flights in all the aircraft we are type rated for, or we can fly training flights in all the aircraft we have added as simulator aircraft. But otherwise, you simply have to wait. Again, I have the option to cheat. We had a 54% chance of being accepted, and we were lucky. It is actually accepted. And normally you'll have to wait, but we just make it available now. So we are reminded we have an application to review. And we are contacted by Miss Miranda Bradley, who congratulates us. The job is ours if we want it. And we are actually now employed as first officer at the airline we were employed at. But if we accept this job, we'll be bumped down to junior first officer. So let's accept it. And now if I want to see which flights again, we can go into the leg search, load this employment, and perform the search, and click OK. So now the 10 assignments we have is based on these. So when you go in and say we want to fulfill an assignment flight, it will now be for Air Portugal. Since we haven't flown anything for Air Portugal, our loyalty score with Air Portugal is very low. But if you look here, you are judged by your weighted loyalty score. And that is based on your last 5 assignments, last 5 employments. The most current employments count the most. So this one count more than this one, but still this one affects the value. So this it's still considered very low, but it could be worse. But if you fly 30 flights or something like that for Air Portugal, it will be bumped up. It will no longer be 0.5. Let's use this cheat feature. Now we have to choose the Airbus, and I'll pretend flying 10 flights. So having flown 10 flights for Air Portugal, our rank is slowly increasing, and we now have an 83% score for Air Portugal, and that means our weighted loyalty score is almost 0.9, so it's not half bad just flying 10 flights. But if we cheat some more and say we let's perform 40 flights, so we perform 50 in total. We are now senior first officer at Air Portugal, and also you can see over here we actually obtained the first Globetrotter trophy, the cardboard version of that trophy. If we look here at achievements and we go reverse, we can see when we actually achieved it. It was here at the 68th flight. If we double click it, we have arrived at 10 different countries. Previously, we must have obtained the achievements for having departed 10 different countries. So we have both departed and arrived at 10 different countries. And that earns us the cardboard version of the Globetrotter trophy. If you want some variance in the flights you fly, you can choose to fly other flights. For example, chartered flight. As explained before, you can always choose free flights, training flights, and so on. But let's say that we want to remain employed by this airline, but for some variance, we want to fly a little in the States now. So what you can do is you can do the leg search feature. Right now, it only select flights from the airline at which we are employed. But let's select all of them. We still only want this airline. We want to only flight 1 and 4 hours. But let's say we want to fly in United States only. And we also want to arrive at United States, so it's only flights within United States we want to choose. There's now 296 different routes to choose between. And these are the different ones. So you could manually pick a route and say this is the route info I want to see and this is the one I want to fly. But instead you can also use the randomizer feature. Say this is a search I performed. As you see, it's only these flights within the States, and based on the criteria, it's only in the Airbus 320. So I simply use the generic randomizer and forget all the data I have here. It's actually something I used for prepared, but I simply say pick a random flight or pick a random route. The difference here, if I choose pick a random route, all routes will have the same chance of being selected. If I choose pick a random flight, routes served more than other routes will have a higher chance of being picked. So in many cases I will choose this random route. And it's a route between these two airports in both directions. So I can simply click one of them, say, okay, this is the one I want to fly. Here in the aircraft, I can choose which aircraft I want to use. Say, this is the aircraft I want to use. It's a simulator aircraft and I'm type rated for it. And I can click this button, fly as chartered. I can fly it as a training flight or a free flight. If I'm not qualified for this aircraft, I would only be able to choose it as a training flight. But because I'm type rated for this aircraft, I can both choose it as a free flight or a chartered flight. A free flight, I can change the airports. As a chartered flight, I'm locked into using the airports defined here. And also, it's a good idea for me to tell you that there's a difference how many points you earn flying a flight. You earn most flights flying assigned flight, then next chartered flight, then free flights, and leased training flights. So I would choose chartered, and I simply click fly. And you see you have two columns. You can here it choose the time, departure time and arrival time based on the flight plans bundle with this program. If I click here, it will do its own calculation of the flight time. You see there's a little difference. This one, according to the timetable, it will arrive at 13:30, but calculated 13:08 instead. I want to use this time, so I click over here. So I say fly as chartered. And it will simply launch the screen. The departure and destination are locked. The carrier and operator are locked. And it have generated a load sheet. Again, normally I would dispatch to SimBrief and import again from SimBrief, but let's just, in this case, click OK. There's nothing to note over here. We only have to fly 9 minutes to burn enough fuels to be able to go back to our departure airport in order to not bust the max landing weight. So I simply click OK. And we can close this window. And we can now commit that flight. Again, you will start your flight simulator and fly this flight. But we are just cheating here, so I just enter this one. So even though we are still employed by Air Portugal, this last flight we flew was a chartered flight. So if you want some variance, in this case we chose the exact same aircraft. We are qualified to fly the CDA4. So what we could choose is none. CDA4. And again, I kept it locked to the States. We can remove that restraint. Choosing all. So now we could pick a random route of these. So if you get to a point where you want to stay employed by a specific airline in order to increase your rank at that airline, but you want to fly something else, you can use this feature to fly these chartered flights. For example, I have not yet purchased it, but I want to purchase the this Pilatus PC-12. I want to purchase this flight. This aircraft from SimWorks. It's probably because I have this restraint. So, it's because I've not type rated. So I can choose this aircraft, and I can choose to a random route and say let's go back and add my restraint more than 1 hour. So I can simply pick a random route using the randomizer. And now you see as charts that is grayed out. First of all, I have not added this as a simulator aircraft. So I don't have an aircraft yet to use. And second, since I'm not type rated, I will have to choose it as a training flight. So if we add the aircraft, and according to my naming, now I have a simulator aircraft I can use, and I simply pick a random route again. Now I have this simulator aircraft. You don't see a T, I'm not type rated. Fly is red because I cannot fly it as a chartered flight. Free flight is also red because I'm not type rated, so I'm not able to fly it as a free flight. However, I can fly it as a training flight. So now I have selected a random real life route, and I simply choose to fly it as a training flight. I fly with a training officer and me as first officer. If we look at the aircraft info, this particular aircraft is defined with a crew count of 1. And since we need to be 2 persons, I'm not qualified, so I have to fly with a training officer or an instructor. And there is only a crew count of 1. That means that the captain, the training instructor, will actually be added as a passenger. And he's a male, so he'll be added as a male passenger. It's simply just to get the weight info correct. The program does this. So I can click OK, and I will fly this flight as a training flight, and then I can build up my training time, and when I have flown those 5 hours the program requires, I'm ready to type rate for this aircraft. So that's how you can remain being employed to the same airline, but still you can fly other routes if you need to do things a little interesting. Perhaps you want to fly a few flights in the PC-12 before you return to flying the 320. You can only be employed by one airline at a time, and each time you look for a new job and you get employed, your rank will drop. It will not drop all the way to 0, but it will probably, your rank points by which the rank is based will be halved each time you look for a new job. So if you want to obtain a high rank, you need to be employed a long time and perform a lot of flights for the same airline. And then you can simply use this feature to spice things up, to fly a different aircraft, to fly different airports when you want to, and still log the time. When you log time for airlines where you're not employed, it will not affect your rank. Your rank points. Your rank will not increase, but you will still gain experience points that makes it more easy to land a job at a higher airline, and you'll also obtain type rating points that will allow you to type rate for larger aircraft. If we look at our logbook now, we have both a high type. You can now type rate for all aircraft. In this video, we could not type rate for the Antonov 225. But now we actually have enough point to do so. And also our experience points is a lot higher. So if we were to look for a job at a huge airline, You see, Air China, before it was 1-2% chance we had to get a job. Now it's 37. Yeah, with all of these shoots, we have about 36, 37. We are told we have 2 times the expected experience. This estimated chance, it can go all the way up to about 50% for a huge airline. And it will not go much above 50. So every time you apply for a job for a huge airline, you will have when you have enough experience, it will be about a 50% chance you have to land that job. And as we looked at before, the settings, if you apply for a job that's not accepted, the difficult setting tells how long time you have to wait before you can reapply for a job there. So you cannot apply for a job and as soon as you get a decline, you apply again. You have to wait a little. So landing a job at a huge airline, it can take some time before your application is accepted. And you can only send one application at a time. For example, if I say I want to apply for a job, and let's just choose Air China. You see, I cannot apply for a job again. I can cancel my application, and it don't have any bad influence doing so, and then I can apply again. But because we already applied for Air China, we said that we have to wait 7 days. But choosing another airline, you can just apply. Let's talk a little about best practice for using this program. If you want it as real as it gets, you should, when you create, let's delete our logbook. Let's just create a new one. Let's just call it new. It's not important. Let's just leave it as it is, a normal setting, and then choose no initial type ratings. If you want it as real, you want to pretend starting from the bottom, being a private pilot, perhaps not allowed to fly anything, or perhaps you say, okay, I'm only qualified to fly the 172 Cessna. And that's it. Remember, as soon as you click OK, you cannot change anything. So this is now the new logbook we created. We are a private pilot. We haven't performed any flights. We are only allowed to fly this small Cessna. And except creating our logbook and having this single type rating, no employment, that's where we begin. But anyway, we can start flying training flights. And you should choose which aircraft you want to train for. Let's say we want to fly the TBM. We can start looking for the TBM and see we need a type rating score of 20. And right now it's 0. So what we can do is we can start flying training flights for the TBM. So let's perform a leg search. Let's reset it. Choose none, choose TBM. As I recall, it's only University of North Carolina that actually operate the TBM.
let's see, yeah, University of North Carolina. These are the flights they operate in the TBM. So we can use these simply, let's use a randomizer again. Pick a random route. And say this is the one we want to fly. And we have this, here's the TBM. And we want to fly it as a training flight. So now we can start flying training flights and build up hours. We need to fly at least 5 hours, but only flying 5 hours will not earn us enough type rating points. As we saw, we needed 20 of those. What we can do is, if I use my cheat again, and we choose the TBM, it's here. Let's perform 10 flights, and those are training flights. See, we've flown a total of 44 hours, and we have built up 15 type rating points, and we needed 20. So we need to fly some more flights in it. I choose the TBM again. Let's do 5 more training flights. We have enough type rating points now. So now we can actually type rate for the TBM. We needed a type rating score of 20. We have 20.6. And we needed a flight time of 5 hours, and we have 57 hours. So now we can actually type rate for this aircraft. And once type rated, we can be employed by North Carolina University, and we can be assigned these flights. We can build up more training points, and we can train for other aircrafts, and here you can see for each aircraft how much you need of type rating score in order to. Right now it's only 20, so if we wanted to type rate for this Airbus, you would need 60. So it takes some time building up these training flights, and you simply rinse and repeat to increase the points, fly your training flights, be type rated, and then employ for a job. And as I said, while being employed, it's a good idea to keep being employed. You need to. We're not type rate for the TBM, so actually we're not type rate for any aircraft, so we cannot find a job right now. But once employed, it's a good idea to fly your assigned flights without. Let's go back to this. Here you see at Air Portugal we have been assigned 60 flights, but we have actually flown 50. We have not skipped any, so we have a perfect loyalty score. And it's a good idea to keep that. At least you should fly 30 flights for the airline. Then you have a good loyalty score, and flying 50 without skipping any, you have a perfect loyalty score. And begin applying jobs for the small airlines. As you see in this advisory, choosing a tiny, I have 85% choosing a huge I have a 30%. And if you begin from scratch with a pilot that doesn't have any experience, you will have 1 or 2% chance of landing a job at a huge airline. So begin flying for the small airlines, and as I said, I tend to choose small airlines with a lot of different routes, so I will not be flying the same route over and over again. Also, avoid being fired. When you look at your logbook, you can see how many assignments you have left. Here, a new batch of 10 have just been regenerated. So I have 10 flights to fly, and I have just committed a flight, so I need to commit again within the next 30 days, and otherwise I have 180 days to perform all 10. So don't bust these because you will be fired. If you need to take some time away, choose to request a leave of absence. And if you know you cannot, here I can request a leave of absence for 90 days, but not more. And if you know you cannot fly for more than 3 months for some reason, something in your real life change some things, what you can do, it's better to actually quit the job than being fired. Right now I have a perfect score. So let's say I have to quit for some reason. You're warned that it will have a negative effect on your loyalty score, but if it's what you have to do, it's what you have to do. And now when I look here at my weighted loyalty score, it only dropped to 0.849. If I was fired, I think it would drop to 50 or lower. No, here Air Portugal, because I quit, it dropped to 0.75 from 1 to 0.75. So it dropped about 25%. If I were fired, it would drop 50%. So it's better to retire than being fired if you know you cannot commit job. But again, first I would try a leave of absence. And if I know a leave of absence of the maximum days is still not enough, then I would choose to quit the job manually. When you send a job reply, as I said, it will take some days before you have a reply. For example, here. It's because I'm not hired right now. It says it's already in 24 hours. When you send a reply, and there'll be multiple days before you have a reply, simply keep flying. If you're still employed, you can fly employment flight. Otherwise, choose free flights or training flights. All kind of flights will increase your experience points, and it will increase your type rating points. So it will make it more easy for you to land a job and to have type ratings. Also, as I said, the amount of point you earn are based on different things. They're based on the type of flight. You earn the most points flying employed assignments. Next will in line will be chartered flight, then free flights, and least is training flights. Training flight generate the least amount of points. Also, those points are based on the substitution score of the aircraft. For example, I have the I think I created it. Yeah. No, that's for prepared. I do own the ATR aircraft. So let's add that. For example, the ATR 600 passenger. That was the 42. And this is the 72. However, I don't own a flyable Q400 or -8 if you prefer. What I can do is I can tell the program that this ATR 72-600 is allowed to be used as a substitute for the -8 400. It gave me it gave me a match score of 39. It means I can use this aircraft as a substitute for this one. However, if I do so, I will only earn 89% of the points because there is a mismatch. It's not a perfect match. If I fly a flight intended for the ATR 72-600, I will get 100% of the points, but if I choose the ATR 72 as a substitute for the -8 400, I will only earn 89%. So even though you don't own the correct aircraft, you can still fly the routes intended for those aircraft. You just need to keep in mind you will not earn the same amount of points doing so. So if it's very important for you to earn the most amount of points, you should try to only fly aircraft with a score of 100 or a score as high as possible. Also, the program generates a small amount of bonus reflying flights in the same aircraft. So if you want to fly a lot of different aircraft, it's a good idea to fly the same aircraft for 5-10 flights, then switch to another aircraft, fly that for 5-10 flights, then switch to another, then flying one flight in one and then the next, and so each flight will be a different aircraft. The same go for airports. There is a small bonus for flying in and out of the same airports. I think it's monitor the last 5 flights. If you within a number of 5 flights refly the same airports, you get a small bonus because your knowledge of that airport is more recent. So again, to maximize your point, that's one thing you can do. So this is how this new feature with logbooks and employments is working. As I said a few times, in the future I would like to connect to the simulator and collect data instead of you having to manually enter them. For example, the out, off, on, in times. It would be better to have those recorded and have recorded if you have used the time acceleration feature, or if you have paused the simulator, and the amount of fuel you burned and so on. Perhaps also if you obtain data from, if we're not right now chartered, but if you fly a flight and we have obtained the data from SimBrief and we have imported the flight plan, I would like to monitor how well you fly that flight plan, your distance to the navigation points that are part of your flight plans, if you actually go to those or you skip them, and judge your flight on that and have it affect your points you earn. But again, it's something I would like to add, but I'm not sure whether or not I will have the time to do so. But let's see how it goes, and please use the forum if you have any comments or requests regarding this feature. Thank you.